Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking out a super fun, super exciting, and very difficult video to make today because we are playing Super Mario World, but we're not playing in the way that you would normally think. This is actually Super Mario Rumble, and it has full Rumble support modded in by Kandowontu. And when I say this might be the most impressive Rumble conversion of any Super Nintendo game since Limited Run Games released the code for the Rumble controller, I 100% mean it. The ability to have haptic feedbacks and really quote-unquote feel the game when you're playing here is better than anything I've experienced so far, even from Limited Run Games. That's not to say that the Doom Rumble isn't impressive in its own right. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But this is one of the hardest videos to make because there's an axiom in filmmaking, show don't tell, but the reality of the situation is I can't show you Rumble. It is something you feel in your hand, it is a haptic feedback, and it kind of is one of those immersive tools that developers have now at their disposal to kind of bring you a little bit further into the game. But of course, in regular gameplay footage, I could be playing vanilla Super Mario World right now, and you guys would have absolutely no idea. So I'm going to take you along for a little bit of a descriptive ride as to what this is actually going to feel like when you check it out. And just so you know, this is a preview copy sent from Kandowontu to me, so I can take a look at it in a video and let you guys know that it should be out next Monday. But if it gets delayed a day or two, just be patient. You can grab this on his Patreon right now, a little bit of a preview copy early if you want to support it, but they do come out basically all the time. And this is the same thing and from the same developer as the Star Fox Shindu edition, where we got Rumble in there as well. But like I said, this is something I need to be creative about because I have to be able to explain what something feels like, even though you can't actually feel it in your hand right now. The interesting thing about the rumble motors in these controllers and how they can be coded, you really can have a sense of directionality in them, like a 3D rumble almost, where you can kind of feel what's hitting and where. And that is no easy feat. You have to go into the game and basically modify the code to be able to have the controller to rumble in the first place. There's going to be softer rumbles, there's going to be firmer rumbles depending on what's happening contextually in the game. And I think that's the number one most important thing, to be able to differentiate the different rumble strengths and feelings so you understand what is being articulated via that haptic feedback. Because the reality situation is if all this did was turn the motors on and off every single time you wanted to rumble something, it really wouldn't have the same effect because every single action would have the exact same feeling. Think about any modern game you play right now. Something that would just be a small bump is going to be a small bump. Something that would feel a lot heavier in a modern PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X game would feel the same way here. And that doesn't just require a good sense of coding skill, it requires someone to understand what the human hand would feel and what the brain would expect on each and every single action within the game that could cause that rumble to occur. And that really is something that is more of an art form in my opinion than it actually is a technical skill. Now don't get me wrong, Kandowontu is amazing at all of these ROM hacks, and it does take a lot of technical proficiency to be able to make something like this, but all the technical proficiency in the world isn't going to make someone understand how to kind of lay up these haptics. It's something even in filmmaking I never use, so I would probably be a little bit confused about it for the first pass or two, but I could kind of use my filmmaking brain to think to myself, what should happen here? But we do have a storied history of haptic feedback in movie theaters, especially back in like the 50s and 60s with some of those classic horror movies, and it is a reality that we do have bass in filmmaking. Even though I don't do my own audio mixing when I am working on a client's project, I use a professional audio engineer for that. We can kind of bump up bass if we want you to feel something. Even though it's not going to be held in your hand, you would still be able to get that impact. Think of that just in Super Mario World. Suddenly you have this much bigger connection to the gameplay around you. You're not just watching the visuals, you're not just pushing the buttons, you're not just listening to the music, you're actually feeling what's going on in the world of Super Mario World. And that is something that is just an extra layer of fun. And that's why I love the fact that Limited Run Games, and yes, I've been critical of them in the past, have released this code as open source so that anyone can do stuff like this. It's not just going to be a game you need to buy from Limited Run. You can download something like this patch, go ahead and patch it in, and then all of a sudden Super Mario World is rumbling like it was there in the first place. But it's time for our first soundtrack sample. No reason other than the music in this game is incredible, and I get to make you listen to it while I take a quick break, and I'll be right back. Okay, really the reason I made you have a soundtrack sample is I keep looking down at my phone and I could feel it vibrate because my wife and I are waiting on our real estate agent to call us back and tell us if our offer was accepted on a house. So by the time you're watching this, there's either a very happy video game esoterica or a video game esoterica that is starting the house hunting process all over again. And trust me, it is not fun. It has nothing to do with this video, but it is what's going on right now. And I always love giving you guys a little bit of my own life. That's why I decided to capture this game today, because I've been waiting on that phone call, and what better way to kind of take a little bit of time off the clock than playing one of the best games ever made. Because the reality is Super Mario World is a perfect game, and if you asked me a couple years ago if there's anything you could change to it to make it better, I would say, I don't know, maybe some extra levels from Nintendo, but otherwise perfection from start to finish. So what Kandowontu has done here is just made a perfect game that much more perfect, if that is even possible. Being able to feel what's going on around you makes it feel like a brand new Super Mario experience, even though you probably played this game a dozen times. I played it so many times I keep missing these question mark blocks. I've been missing them since the 90s, and I'm going to continue to miss them for the rest of my life. But just think about experiencing these games in a brand new way, because it's not like people don't go back and play Super Mario World maybe every year or two because they've loved the game. Now imagine having that same gameplay sensation, but you have Rumble. I think the best way to describe it in a video when you can't actually feel the controller is when you get that stereo separation in that first soundtrack sample. You can hear the audio panning right to left, and you kind of understand where things might be coming from. Now it's not spatial audio, of course it's not 5.1 surround because we have much better today, but back in the day stereo in and of itself was such a big thing coming over from mono. That is kind of the same feeling of change here when suddenly you have rumble in the controls for Super Mario World that never used to be there, and the rumble can really feel 3D and kind of articulate just in the same way that stereo does, that sensation of place and space within the game in and of itself. I know I'm using bigger words in this video than I usually do, but I'm really trying to use my artistic brain and my film professor college brain to just get a concept articulated across, even if you can't actually touch the controller yet. But if you have been playing any of the Rumble Edition games on Super Nintendo, leave me a comment down below and tell me which ones those have been, because I will say Star Fox, also from Kandowontu, was legit as well, but this is 10 times better. And that's not to say that Star Fox wasn't awesome. There's just something about feeling Super Mario World versus just playing it that really works in every single context you could possibly imagine. But let's do a little thought experiment. You're not actually watching any gameplay, you're just seeing Mario hover over the overworld map right now going into Morton's castle. Think about how many times you've played this game before, think about how many different platforms you played it on, and think to yourself, if you have played it, is there anything that anyone could do that would make it feel like a fresh and new gameplay experience in a game that maybe you remember where every single secret exit is? Because trust me, my wife is an expert at this game and she knows exactly how to do everything. Now I handed her the controller, I let her play around with it, and the smile on her face was absolutely massive. She was rediscovering Super Mario World for the first time again, even though I've seen her beat it from start to finish like 5 times in our relationship. All of that in the palm of your hand with all the incredible Mario fun and the great soundtrack. Soundtrack sample 2, and I'll be right back. Now the reason I'm actually doing these soundtrack samples is each kind of audio tone can articulate in a way what rumble would be like. Think about the reverb in some of these levels. The reverb can be stronger, it can be lighter, and it kind of just gives you an overall vibe. And that's what's going to be happening with the rumble as well. It can be stronger, it can be lighter, and it articulates that vibe in the same way that the music does, how every single level's theme does, and how all of the artwork does as well. This is the type of thing if Nintendo had back in the day, you'd absolutely love it, and it would be fondly remembered, and that is the fun thing about modifications like this. This can be done to every single game on the Super Nintendo now that Limited Run Games has open sourced all of that code, which means just leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's one game you would love to feel rumble as you play it. I think Super Castlevania 4 or even Dracula X would be some of my favorites, at least thinking about it right now. But the fun part is the sky is the limit. If people want to go and modify them with that rumble code in a controller, you can do it. But Super Mario World with rumble just feels incredible. It feels like a new experience in a game I've loved and have played a ton. But we're done. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.